Okay, in the second part of the video we're going to look at putting back together again the float bowl assemblies on my GS 550 Suzuki Mikuni carburettors. I just want to give you a little tip here, and that is I often use a piece of corrugated cardboard like this to organise all the parts when I'm stripping things down, especially if there's lots of parts the same as there are with the 4 carburettors. And of course, as you can see, what you can do is you can draw circles around and put numbers in, and even better than that, you can take a component like this needle valve. You can actually just pop it into the cardboard, which holds it a little bit more firmly in place. Now, when reassembling these carburettors, I was going to clean up the original valves, needle valves and the seats, but I found them to be quite worn. And in fact, I don't know if you can see this, but here on this needle valve there is in fact a little ring around the end here, showing the wear on the needle valve. And I was going to replace these needle valves, and then after looking online I found out that actually for not much more money you can actually get a kit which includes the valve body, the needle valve, some O-rings if you've got different carburettors, the gasket and so on. And so I decided I'd replace both components because that made more sense financially as well as from a point of view of making it successful. So here you can see a new needle valve and the new valve body. If you take an old one like this, you can see that it's not quite the same because the old valve body has still got the gauze disc on the end, or filter on the end I should say. So what we need to do is take this gauze piece off and fit it onto the new one there. Now, to get those off, there is in fact a little hole in the bottom of the rim, which you'll see there, a little tiny hole, and just by popping something under there and leveraging it carefully, it will just pop off, but obviously be careful it doesn't ping away and you lose it. So to reinstall this on here, all we need to do is simply take that filter, put it on the top and click it on, and there it is, same as the old one was. So what I'm going to do now is reinstall this into the carburetor body, and just to make it a little bit easier I'm going to take a little bit of Vaseline. I'm just using the same stuff you use on babies' bottoms, and I'm going to just smear that around there. Makes it easier to push it in, and of course as soon as the petrol touches it, it will just completely disappear, so it's not a problem. And that goes into the valve body, into the carburetor body I should say, here like this, and we just push it down gently and down it goes, and it bottoms out, and that's installed. We then take our new needle and making sure it's clean, put it in there, and it just drops into place like that. Okay, so this is carburetor number 1. So over here we have float bowl number 1 and pin number 1. But before we put that in, don't forget to replace the needle valve body retaining bracket, which looks like this. That just pops in there like that, and we do that up, that little screw up there, and that holds it in place like so. Okay, right, we then take our float, which fits back in here, and we take our float pin. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to slide the pin back in through the post, through the float valve body, and out the other side. Okay, now this time I am not tapping this in to make it a permanent fit, because what I need to do is I need to set the float height here, and you need to look up the appropriate measurement in your manual and so on, but generally I've found that they're 22mm. So what I've done is I've got this digital caliper and set that back to 0 and then open it up. I find this is the easiest way of doing it. If you open this up to 22mm, it can be a little bit tricky to do, but I shall get it sort of, oh there we are, went a bit past it there. Oh, there we go. Set this. Okay, I'm going to set it for 2198. That's only 0.02 of a millimetre off 22. That'll do for now. And what we need to do is we need to offer this up to the carburetor float bowl, and we need to make sure that this sits here, this end piece sits here between the wall and this little ridge here, because if you put it on this ridge that runs around to hold the gasket in place, you're going to find out you get a false reading. So we just go to the side of that like so, and then what we need to do is see where the float comes out. Now at the moment it's touching on it and it jumps up quite a lot, and that means that I need to adjust it. Now for this one, because it's too high, I need to take this tab here and I need to bend it up so that the float actually sits lower, and then it will be at the right height. If I free this off and have a look at where it actually is, if I put this on here, okay, we bring it down till it touches the shoulder on here, and at the moment, okay, that's at least at measurement of 24.2, so it's way too high. Okay, here we are, we've got the floats installed now in each of the 4 carburettors. We've got the new float needles and the new float needle seats. Just a quick word about adjusting these. I said in the last video, as it were, that you put your gauge there between the gasket line and where it sits properly, and then you can rest the end of it on top of the float, and that should give you your right reading. Don't forget there are 2 floats, and this one here might be a little bit different to that one there, so you need to get both of these at the right height setting. I found some of mine to be quite badly out with each other, so there's a little bit of bending of this bit here in order to get the floats at the same height. So again, don't go mad bending things out of place, but you do need to get both floats on both sides at the right height, otherwise the one that's kind of highest or lowest, depending on which way up you are, is going to give you a false reading and therefore allow the float bowl to fill up with too much petrol or not enough petrol. So make sure you get them all there, and then again, these little pins here, don't overdo tapping them in, just tap them in gently and then they'll come out a lot easier the next time around. Anyway, just need to replace the float bowls now, and remember as I do that to put this bracket back on here, this little one that goes over this particular hole, because when the float bowl's in place, that bolt will go through there and that will secure that bracket in place. I hope that you improve your carburettors as a result of following my instructions.